The Grand Confederation Victory Ball was exactly as tacky as one might expect from a gathering of 17 different sentient species who'd all agreed on the decor. Holographic fireworks exploded around a rotating model of Earth now conveniently labeled Concord in 12 different languages. The aliens had even gone to the trouble of programming little holograms of themselves dancing on the continents. Admiral Kraz adjusted his ceremonial armor, its gleaming purple surface catching the light from 7 different suns projected onto the ceiling. The Draxian commander stood 9 feet tall with his posture fins fully extended, which they always were at formal events. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence as he surveyed the celebration, mandibles clicking with satisfaction. "Magnificent, isn't it?" he said to nobody in particular. "The fall of humanity. Who would have thought it would be so easy?" The gathered dignitaries murmured their agreement, raising glasses of various intoxicants in 17 different toasting gestures. Some species had to use tentacles, others used proboscises. The less said about the Gluoch method of celebration, the better. 2 standard galactic years earlier, humanity had burst onto the interstellar scene with their crude warp drives and unrefined diplomatic approaches. They'd immediately started making demands about sovereign rights and territorial boundaries that simply didn't align with established galactic protocol. When the Grand Confederation had politely suggested Earth become a Class 3 protectorate with only minor resource taxation, the humans had responded with something called gunboat diplomacy. It had been amusing. At first. "I still remember their faces when we vaporized their Jupiter outpost," said General Thrix of the Molian Dominion, his gelatinous form wobbling with mirth. "They genuinely thought their nuclear deterrent would frighten us." The look on their ambassador's face, added diplomat Zorb, of 14 ice dogs waving in remembered delight, when we showed him the casualty projections, and he realized their entire military was outmatched by our 3rd smallest battle group. Admiral Kraz raised his drinking apparatus, a toast, to the short-lived and thoroughly underwhelming saga of humanity in galactic affairs. The assembled aliens raised their various drinking implements. The Gluoch did their thing, causing several nearby diplomats to discreetly move away. Just as Kraz was about to drink, his communication implant buzzed. A junior officer's voice came through, sounding confused. "Admiral? We're picking up a signal from human frequencies. It's well, sir. It appears to be laughter." Commander Jack Parker watched the alien celebration through his ship's monitors with the kind of smile usually reserved for people who know something you don't, and are enjoying your ignorance immensely. He sat back in the captain's chair of the GSV Trojan Horse, a prototype stealth vessel that officially didn't exist according to all human military records the aliens had captured. "Would you look at that?" he mused, running a hand through his disheveled dark hair. 700 alien species in the galaxy, and not one of them ever watched a human war movie. If they had, they might have been suspicious when we surrendered after losing just one major battle. Jack had escaped the final confrontation by activating the ship's experimental quantum displacement drive, which essentially made the Trojan Horse exist in a state of maybe there, but maybe not, a concept the alien sensors couldn't even comprehend. Quantum physics had always been humanity's strong suit, much to the confusion of races who'd evolved with completely different mathematical frameworks. "Lumi, what's our status?" Jack asked. A cheerful blue hologram popped into existence beside him, displaying the face of a young woman with an entirely too enthusiastic expression for someone whose species had supposedly just been conquered. "All systems optimal, Commander. Our cloak is maintaining 99.8% effectiveness. And I've successfully intercepted 73 victory broadcasts from across the Confederation networks. They're quite creative with their victory anthems. The Draxians have composed a 12-hour opera about Admiral Kraz's strategic genius. Would you like me to play it?" Jack grimaced. "Hard pass. And Lumi, we've talked about the enthusiasm levels." "Sorry, Commander." The AI's face briefly shifted to a comically serious expression before bouncing back to cheerful. "I'm still calibrating my personality matrix to appropriate for potential extinction-level events." "You keep working on it." Jack stood up and stretched. "Any word from the encrypted channels?" "Yes. 17 new transmissions confirmed in the last hour. Made all outposts report ready status." Oh, and we've received the final confirmation signal from Lunar Base. The Totokol thunderstorm is fully activated. Jack allowed himself a genuine smile now. When humanity had realized they were hopelessly outgunned in conventional warfare, they'd immediately switched to Plan B, appear weak, let the enemy underestimate you, and build something they won't see coming. Set course for the coordinates, Jack ordered. Let's see if our secret shipyards are still secret. As the Trojan horse slipped silently through space, Jack reflected on humanity's real defensive strategy. The war had been a carefully orchestrated show, deploying only obsolete technology and keeping 95% of their military strength hidden. Meanwhile, humanity's best scientists had been working around the clock on revolutionary quantum technologies that the mathematically incompatible aliens couldn't even theoretically detect. 3 days into the journey, the ship's proximity alarm blared. An unidentified vessel approaching, Lumi announced, her cheerful face now appropriately concerned. It's Heyman. That's odd. It's broadcasting on frequencies that match neither human nor known Confederation patterns. The view screen flickered to show a sleek ship with bizarre organic-looking protrusions. It was painted matte black with garish purple stripes. We're being hailed, Lumi said. Put it through. The screen changed to show a humanoid figure with pale blue skin, solid black eyes, and what appeared to be living silver jewelry crawling across her face. Hey, Commander Parker, the alien said in perfect English. I am Vextra, independent contractor. You humans have a term for my profession, bounty hunter, and currently your head is worth quite a lot. Jack tensed, ready to order evasive maneuvers, but the alien held up a 6-fingered hand. Fortunately for you, Vextra continued with a sharp-toothed smile, I have personal reasons to despise Admiral Kraz much more than I like money. Let's talk about how I can help you ruin his very extensive victory celebration. The coordinates led to a seemingly empty region of space just beyond the Kuiper belt of a nondescript star system 50 light-years from Earth. To any conventional sensor, there was absolutely nothing there but cosmic dust and the occasional hydrogen atom having an existential crisis. Are you sure this is right? Vextra asked skeptically, her ship now traveling alongside the Trojan horse. Because it looks like we've traveled several days to visit the cosmic equivalent of an empty parking lot. Oh, ye of little faith, Jack replied, tapping commands into his console. Lumi. Broadcast authentication sequence Alpha Thunderstorm 7. Broadcasting with enthusiasm, Commander. The AI responded. For a moment, nothing happened. Then reality itself seemed to hiccup. Where empty space had been seconds before, a massive space station phased into existence, surrounded by what appeared to be hundreds of ships of various sizes. Vextra's jaw literally dropped a foot. Apparently her species had evolved some unusual joint structures. That's impossible. No cloaking technology can hide an installation that size from all sensor bands. It's not cloaking, Jack said with evident pride. It's quantum displacement. The shipyard exists in a probability state where it's statistically unlikely to be observed. We basically convinced the universe there was only a 0.0001% chance this place existed, so the universe just went with it. That's not how physics works. Vextra protested. Not how your physics works, Jack corrected. Your species took a different evolutionary branch of mathematics. You understand spatial relationships we find baffling, but quantum mechanics is our playground. As they docked with the massive station officially designated Definitely Not Here station by some engineer with a questionable sense of humor, Vextra continued to stare in disbelief at the fleet assembled around them. The ships were unlike any human vessels the Confederation had encountered before, sleeker, with strange crystalline structures integrated into their hulls and an eerie blue glow emanating from their drive systems. They were met in the docking bay by a short, stocky woman with dark skin, curly hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, and the most oil-stained uniform Jack had ever seen. Despite this, the rank insignia clearly marked her as a senior engineer. Commander Parker. About time you showed up. I was beginning to think you'd gotten lost in another dimension again, she said, wiping her hands on an equally greasy rag. That was one time, Talia. Jack protested, then gestured to their companion, Engineer Talia Blackwood. Meet Vextra. She's a bounty hunter who hates Admiral Kraz more than she likes money. Excellent qualification for being here. Talia nodded approvingly. Come on. The General is waiting to brief you both. As they walked through the massive station, Talia explained the operation to an increasingly stunned Vextra. The war you saw? The one where humanity got its ass kicked. That was approximately 5% of our actual military capability, using outdated tech we were planning to decommission anyway. Meanwhile, we've been building these. She gestured proudly to a view screen showing the new fleet. The Confederation thinks they conquered a moderately advanced species that just figured out warp drive. What they don't realize is that we cracked the quantum probability barrier 20 years ago. We just kept it quiet because, well, the rest of the galaxy is kind of judgy about technological development paths. They entered a large war room where dozens of officers were gathered around holographic displays. At the center stood a tall, distinguished-looking man with silver hair and the kind of face that seemed purpose-built for inspiring confidence. Commander Parker. He nodded. Welcome to humanity's real last stand, or rather, what will soon be the Confederation's last embarrassment. General Marcus Hayes was, Jack decided, either the greatest strategic genius in human history or completely insane. Possibly both. Let me get this straight, Jack said, looking at the holographic battle plans floating above the war table. You intentionally lost Earth. Temporarily misplaced, Hayes corrected, not looking up from the display. There's a difference. You evacuated 7 billion people secretly through quantum tunnels, left behind convincing holograms and automated systems to make it look inhabited, then allowed the Confederation to conquer an essentially empty planet. Yes, while simultaneously building this hidden fleet and developing weapons the aliens can't even detect. Correct again. And now, while they're hosting a galaxy-wide victory party, we're going to attack all their major military installations simultaneously. Hayes finally looked up, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth. Commander Parker, have you ever been fishing? Jack blinked at the apparent non sequitur. Yes, sir. My grandfather took me when I was a kid. Then you understand the concept. You let the fish think it's won. Let it run with the line, tire itself out celebrating its freedom. Then, when it's exhausted and least expecting it, Hayes made a sharp yanking motion with his hand. Across the room, Talia was explaining the new weapon systems to Vextra, whose expression suggested she was reconsidering several life choices that had led her to this moment. The quantum displacement torpedoes don't actually explode, Talia was saying, hands moving animatedly. They simply alter the probability of the target ship existing in its current configuration to approximately 0. The atoms remain, but their organizational structure becomes, let's say, highly improbable. Your species, Vextra said slowly, is terrifying. Oh, thanks. Talia beamed, completely missing the concern in the alien's voice. The briefing continued for another hour, with various officers presenting their parts of the plan. Jack was assigned to lead a strike team against one of the Confederation's primary communications hubs, while Vextra, with her knowledge of Confederation security systems, would help Talia infiltrate their central defense network. As they were preparing to depart, Jack pulled Vextra aside. You never said why you hate Admiral Kraz so much. The bounty hunter's face darkened, her living jewelry slithering into agitated patterns. He destroyed my homeworld. Not for any military reason, we were neutral in Confederation politics. He just wanted the rare minerals in our asteroid belt, and it was easier to eliminate the local population than negotiate mining rights. Jack's expression hardened. Then you'll enjoy what happens next. 12 hours later, the human counterattack began. Admiral Kraz was in the middle of his 14th victory speech of the day when the reports started coming in. At first, he ignored the increasingly frantic messages from his subordinates. By the time he acknowledged them, 3 major fleet bases had already gone silent. What do you mean? The ships just disappeared, he bellowed at his communications officer. Ships don't just disappear. The reports state that the hulls simply fell apart. Admiral, the trembling officer replied, as if the molecular bonds just decided to stop working. And molecular bonds don't make decisions. Kraz roared, his posture fins fully extended in rage. Across 17 star systems, the pattern repeated. Confederation defenses didn't fail, they simply ceased to exist as coherent matter. Human ships appeared where no ships could possibly be, bypassing defensive grids with technology that Confederation scientists had repeatedly proven was theoretically impossible. And on every captured Confederation communication channel, the same message played on repeat. Turns out humans aren't great at surrendering, but we're excellent at pretending. Catch you soon. Xoxo humanity. This is completely unfair. Admiral Kraz slammed all 4 of his fists onto the conference table, causing several alien representatives to flinch back. They broke the established rules of warfare. There are rules? Jack whispered to Talia as they watched the emergency Confederation security meeting through hacked feeds. Apparently losing gracefully was in the fine print. She whispered back. The human counteroffensive had been underway for 3 days, and it was going even better than expected. Confederation forces were in disarray, their command structure collapsing as quantum displacement weapons neutralized their ships and installations without any conventional defense being possible. More amusing was the political fallout. The 17 species were now frantically blaming each other for the intelligence failure, with particularly pointed accusations being directed at Admiral Kraz, who had assured everyone that human technology was primitive and predictable. The humans must have had outside help. Kraz was insisting to the gathered representatives. Their technological leap is impossible otherwise. That's rich coming from the guy whose species took 3 centuries to figure out the wheel because circles looked suspicious, Talia muttered, earning a snort from Jack. Meanwhile, on the bridge of the GSVE inevitable consequence, Jack was preparing for the operation's pivotal moment, the capture of Kraz's flagship. The massive Draxian vessel, ominously named Final Word, was currently hiding in an asteroid field, surrounded by the remnants of Kraz's once impressive fleet. Status report. Jack called out, settling into the captain's chair. All systems optimal, and ready for engagement, Commander. Lumi's cheerful hologram appeared, now sporting what appeared to be virtual battle armor. Jack had given up on moderating her enthusiasm. Quantum displacement field is charged and ready, reported Talia from the engineering station. We can neutralize their weapons systems without damaging life support. And I've transmitted the security codes to bypass their defensive screens, Vextra added from her position at tactical. They won't know we're there until we're already aboard. Jack nodded, feeling a moment of genuine appreciation for how quickly the bounty hunter had integrated with their crew. Let's go fishing. Ipo. The attack was over almost before it began. The inevitable consequence slipped through the Confederation defenses like they weren't there, technically. From a quantum probability perspective, they briefly weren't. Disabled the flagship's weapons and engines and allowed boarding teams to teleport directly onto the bridge. Jack had the distinct pleasure of watching Admiral Kraz's 4 eyes widen in sequence as humans in combat armor materialized around him. This is impossible, Kraz sputtered, posture fins drooping in shock. We destroyed your military capability. Did you, though? Jack asked pleasantly, removing his helmet. Or did we just let you think you did? By the way, I'm Commander Jack Parker of the Earth Fleet. You may remember blowing up my previous ship. The one we actually let you blow up, Talia added helpfully, appearing at Jack's side with a datapad, and for verisimilitude. This is against all established conventions of warfare, Kraz protested. Funny thing about humans, Jack said, circling the Admiral's command chair. We don't much care about conventions when someone tries to conquer our planet. We're quirky that way. Within hours, similar scenes played out across Confederation space as human ships captured key military and political installations. The surrender negotiations were almost embarrassingly brief, with most species immediately throwing the Draxians under the metaphorical bus in their haste to make peace with the suddenly terrifying humans. The final surrender document was signed in orbit around Earth, where Confederation representatives were allowed to see the conquered. Planets suddenly repopulate as quantum tunnels reopened and 7 billion humans returned home, many of them apparently annoyed that their vacation had been cut short. The Human Confederation Reconciliation Gala was everything the Victory Ball had not been: tasteful, subdued, and absolutely dripping with irony. Held in the newly established Earth Embassy in neutral space, it featured minimalist decor, classical Earth music, and a conspicuous absence of holographic humans dancing on conquered planets. Jack Parker, now promoted to captain, stood by the refreshment table watching aliens from all 17 Confederation species awkwardly attempting to make small talk with human diplomats. Many kept glancing nervously at the nearly invisible shimmer in the air that betrayed the presence of quantum displacement field generators throughout the embassy. Just in case anyone gets nostalgic for conquering, Talia had explained when installing them, with perhaps a bit too much enthusiasm. "Quite the turnaround," said a familiar voice, as Vextra appeared at his side. The bounty hunter had traded her combat gear for something more formal, though her living jewelry remained, now formed into patterns that Jack had learned indicated amusement. "From extinction to galactic power in 2 weeks," Jack agreed, raising his glass. "Not bad for a species that supposedly doesn't understand proper interstellar protocols." Across the room, General Hayes was explaining something to a group of alien scientists whose expressions suggested they were reconsidering their understanding of fundamental physics. Nearby, Lumi's hologram was entertaining some glooch diplomats by rapidly changing her appearance to match each of their amorphous forms, causing what Jack assumed was delighted laughter. With the glooch, it was hard to tell laughter from digestive distress. "Captain Parker," a stiff voice interrupted, "your refreshment." "Yeah." Jack turned to find Admiral Kraz, his once proud posture fins now permanently drooping, wearing what appeared to be a server's uniform and holding a tray of drinks. "Thank you, Admiral," Jack said pleasantly, taking a glass. "How are you enjoying your new role in interspecies cooperation?" Kraz's mandibles clicked in what might have been suppressed rage. "It is educational. As were the terms of the peace treaty. Those terms had been surprisingly lenient after all. Humans weren't monsters. But there had been a few specific conditions, including the reassignment of certain Confederation military leaders to cultural exchange positions within human diplomatic services. Admiral Kraz's assignment as Chief Refreshment Coordinator for the Earth Embassy would last approximately 1 Earth century. "I'm curious," Jack said, keeping his tone conversational. "Did it ever occur to you that a species which went from stone tools to space travel in under 10,000 years might have a few surprises up their sleeves?" In retrospect, Kraz admitted stiffly, "we may have misinterpreted certain cultural and technological indicators. Like our apparent obsession with stories about underdogs winning against impossible odds," Jack suggested. "Or our long history of playing possum until the right moment." As the Admiral moved away to serve other guests, Jack found himself joined by Talia and Vextra, the latter now officially appointed as interspecies security consultant for the Earth fleet. "One thing I still don't understand," Vextra said. "You could have revealed your true capabilities from the beginning. Why go through the elaborate deception?" Jack smiled, watching as human and alien representatives cautiously built bridges across species that, just weeks ago, had been mortal enemies. "Because if we'd just showed up with superior firepower, we'd have been conquerors, no better than Kraz. This way we're liberators even to many in the Confederation who were tired of the old power structure. Also," Talia added with a grin, "it was way more fun this way." As the evening progressed and new alliances were tentatively formed, one thing became abundantly clear to the gathered representatives of 17 formerly conquering species. When it comes to humanity, never mistake patience for weakness, adaptability for lack of planning, or apparent defeat for anything other than what it might be the calm before a storm of their making. And somewhere in the vast quantum probability space of the universe, the laws of physics were still trying to figure out exactly how they'd been so thoroughly outplayed by a bunch of evolved primates with a penchant for thinking outside very theoretical boxes.